Welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broken. I'm your host, Jamie Lima, and founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions, where we help people prepare for, navigate, and recover financially from divorce. This is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. Today, I'm super excited to be hosting Kimber Foster, is distinguished author, coach, and interior designer, by the way. My wife is going to love this episode, who specializes in aiding recovery from narcissistic relationships. Kimber's personal journey through a 30-year relationship with a narcissist equips her with unique insights and empathy, which she brings to her workshops and coaching sessions. Today, we're going to delve into how Kimber helps individuals reclaim their space and life through transformational strategies. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, buckle up, and let's once again get you financially and personally empowered. Kimber, it's so great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's good to see you. As we were preparing for our conversation here today, and as I was leading up to this conversation and getting ready to record with you, putting your bio together and that intro, that word narcissist just stood out to me like a glowing red, like warning sign, red light type of thing, right? And so many of the people that we work with, either they do or they claim to be married to or divorcing from a narcissist. So tell me more about that and your experience, maybe personally, and maybe also more importantly, how we should be very careful about using that word so loosely sometimes.
I know, it's crazy. It's become a mainstream word right now. I call it the N word. Yeah, I wrote my book 6 years ago. I didn't even know what a narcissist was. And I started doing some research, and my friend got me into this book. It was called The Verbally Abusive Spouse or something like that. And it just kind of catapulted me into understanding how I'd gotten to that place in my life. And my ex actually had gone through a psych eval where he was diagnosed with a severe personality disorder. So, that's kind of in that same genre, I guess. But then I started reading about narcissists. And I actually have a degree in psychology, but I didn't know anything about narcissists back then. But now I'm kind of an expert. But what I realized, though, is my whole story was textbook. My story's not unique. It's universal. Unfortunately, there's a lot of narcissists out there.
It seems to be this word that is thrown around a lot, though, right? And then I posted this on social media now. By the time this airs, maybe 6 months prior to the airing of this show, and I'm probably going to post it more times because it's such a like you said, a word people throw around, the N word that people throw around so much. But there really is something to be said about that being a personality disorder and not just your husband or your wife is a jerk, right?
Right. There's a definite difference there. And even if you question, am I a narcissist? You're not. Because narcissists only care about themselves. They're never wrong. It's just a whole new level of a lack of empathy, and just it's all about them all the time.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. How do people identify? Because I know I actually took a course on this about a year ago. So I have my own, I took my notes and I have my own definition of what I was told a narcissist is. And I think I understand it. But for those that are not experts in that field or haven't taken training like we have, can you, what are the warning signs? What are the things they need to be looking for? What are the identifiers? How do we know whether, again, wow, I'm actually really dealing with them? And more importantly, I don't like to layer questions here, but I'm going to stack questions if it's okay. How do we identify it? And then more importantly, how do we deal with it?
Yeah, that's important. So when I was writing my book and doing my research, I identified 17 emotional manipulative tactics of a narcissist. And once you're able to identify, they're projecting back at you, or they're gaslighting you, or there's just so many different components to it that you're able to recognize those key manipulative tactics that they use. They do it to get whatever they can. They go to any lengths when it's all about them. Yeah.
In divorce, we work with people that are navigating the financials. Well, I'll take that back. We handle the financial nuances of a divorce. Like the people that
Sure.
we're helping are handling all different aspects of it. They're handling their financials. They're trying to handle their emotions. They're trying to probably manage the process with their kids, make sure the kids go through this exercise without being, having too much damage to them and so on. So we have to layer in some financials here because this is also a financial show in some respects. How did like dealing with these types of people impact the financials of divorce? And I guess, how do you protect yourself of making like bad decisions when you're dealing with them?
Yeah. Well, with a narcissist, one of the tactics that they use is alienation. In my divorce, my ex tried to alienate me from the financials. He handled all the financials during our divorce. So in hindsight, I wished I had been more involved with our finances. But going through the divorce, he alienated me, tried to cut all financials off, hid money. It just goes on and on about the lengths that a narcissist will go to it's their money. It's not your money. Even though we were married 30 years and it's a no fault state, everything's divided in half. He wanted to give me zero. It was his money, his house, his home, his children. So they go to any lengths to keep that away from their spouse.
That's, in my opinion, that's financial abuse.
Yeah. And, in a lot of it going through the divorce process, he used financial or a lack thereof as a way to keep me in the marriage. He said, if you ever leave, I will leave you with nothing. I will destroy you. I will take the children from you. In hindsight, now I know that he couldn't do that. The laws are there to protect us, but they will go at any lengths like to hide money, and just it's a controlling issue. They're all about control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see this happen time and time again. And the listeners that have listened and subscribed and follow us across social media and here at the podcast hear me say this all the time. We work with 95% of the people we work with are women that were in your shoes and going through that same experience. And this is not by design, Kimber. This is not by design. We don't set out to just work with women.
Yeah.
But what I found is that when it comes to the financial stuff and women that have been in your shoes and are going through that experience right now, they almost like they know what they don't know. And they're wiser to that than us as men in many ways, and they're more apt to reach out for help.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super appreciative of you being able to share this with us, because most of the women that are listening right now are probably in some form or fashion have going through this similar experience. And dudes, if you're out there and you're going through this yourselves, you do not need to hesitate in reaching out for the help. This is not a time for John Wayne syndrome.
Yeah, definitely not.
Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I did when I was going through the divorce process is I hired a CDFA, a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst.
That's us.
I mean, that was the key.
Thank you for the commercial. That's us.
No, but really, I mean, she really helped me through the whole process of, how much should I get in child support and in alimony, and what my budget is, and what kind of house I could afford on my own. I mean, she was a wealth of information for me. It really was very helpful.
Tell me more about that experience, because we have very few people on this show that have actually worked with someone like ourselves. And I want to hear from your perspective what that was like. I know you gave us a little snapshot in there, but maybe walk me through what the process was like so other people know what your experience was.
No, she was great. I found her online. We immediately hit it off, and she helped me go through all the tax returns, put together, because when you're getting all your information together for the attorneys, and you have to talk about what your monthly expenses are. And, I pretty much just ran the house. I really didn't know much about retirement funds and Social Security and, just how to plan for my future. And she was a wealth of information for me. We went through a whole checklist, and it was really informative and helped me.
Would you say this, and I'm asking you this selfishly, so I apologize, listeners. This moment is going to be all about me here. But would you say it was a cumbersome experience, or would you think it was an experience where you have to do it? It's not fun gathering all that information. I recognize that part. But did you find going through it was enlightening, or like it gave you
Yeah.
gave you some power back, and more importantly, saved you some money from on the attorney side of things?
Well, yeah, it was empowerment, definitely. I mean, like I said, he threatened me to leave me with nothing. So, by the time we sit down and we go through all the accounts and everything, she's like, Wendy, it's law. You have to split it down the middle. Unfortunately, I had the narcissist ex-husband who wanted me to be left with nothing. So he raked up the attorney fees. Anything he could fight on, he did. Any kind of motion he could come up with, he did. I actually had 2 protection orders in place, and he fought both of those too. So he knew, I had been a housewife for a number of years out of the workforce. So it wouldn't have been as easy for me to make up those funds. Meanwhile, he's a CEO of a big company. He can make those funds back easily.
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking is because what we've found historically speaking is that if we can be there to support you on the financial side, and you let your attorneys or your mediator or your even your divorce coach, if necessary, help you on the managing the legal side and the emotions that go along with it, and getting you through the divorce process, through the court system itself, we can often save significant amount of monies for you as the client, because it's like any other scenario. Like, the specialists are going to do the work faster, more effectively, more efficiently, and probably at a lower cost. Yeah, it takes a team. And that's where, if you listen to some of the shows, that's where I say all the time, like, it's where you create team you. And it may seem counterintuitive to hire someone like myself along with an attorney and a divorce coach and your therapist, but you need all these people. This is an investment in your future self. And if everybody works cohesively together, you're going to come out on the other side in a much better place, and probably with more money in your pocket than had you let your attorney do it alone. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, my CDFA didn't charge me hourly like my attorney. Yeah. Because anytime you call that attorney, it's like cha-ching. So
100%. Yeah, we do hourly, but we don't nickel and dime, and we don't do every text message, every phone call, every email. We just 9 times out of 10, it's like, not billable.
But I have to say, it was one of the best decisions I made, was hiring a CDFA.
Amazing.
Well, and then she ended up helping me do my whole portfolio, after the fact, which was great too, because my ex, as smart as he wasn't very good with finances. And interestingly, he put all our eggs in one basket, and it was really good to have a financial advisor help me diversify my portfolio.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the commercial. We're going to use this in all of our future advertisements moving forward. And but you're absolutely right. I'm also a certified financial planner, and I worked for 20 years in this line of work, most of which I did on, with traditional retirement planning, investment management, and so on. So I just had a conversation with a prospective client about 30 minutes ago, and I told her exactly what I'm going to tell you now is our job is almost only halfway done when the divorce is settled, because now we have to help you with the transition into your new life. What is your budget going to look like, and what are your investments going to look like, and estate plan, insurance, and so on and so forth. You have kids involved. What about their college plan and all those things? So I appreciate this part of our conversation.
And a lot of it for me, like going through the divorce process with a narcissist too, is fear, the fear of the unknown, fear of what you can afford, fear of where you're going to live, fear of who's going to take care of the children. And most of that stems from financials.
Yeah.
So if you can eliminate that and have a financial advisor, it's really helpful.
What about the rebuilding process, right? Like what was that like for you, and anything you want to share to listeners about, like what the experience was like rebuilding your life after the divorce?
Well, it's difficult. You're with someone for 30 years, and all of a sudden you find yourself on this new solo trip. And it was interesting, having to rely on myself and my financials. And, and also for us, the biggest problem and conflict was the children. Who's going to pay for the kids? They say, the biggest factor in the adjustment of children in divorce is the level of conflict between parents. And a lot of that stems to financials. So I did a lot of research. I even created a divorce checklist to help your listeners and my readers about what to include when it comes to the children, because there's so many things that aren't included and that leads to conflict, and the children are put in the middle as a tug of war with money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some personal experiences to share there that we probably don't need to get into, which may get me in trouble on the back end, but I would concur. I think the more involved kids are in the financial aspects of divorce and hearing parents talk and all the things that, your dad's not going to pay me, your mom's not going to pay me, or like whatever it is, you got to leave that stuff off to the side because, go punch a pillow and cry in your pillow type of thing, right?
Yeah. But it's like with your judgment of divorce, though, I say it's the Holy Grail, the Bible. You got to make sure it's included in your judgment of divorce, especially when divorcing a narcissist, because if it's not in there, they're not going to pay it. So they say, no, skis aren't included. Self-help plan's not included. All those are financial components that are important that you cover beforehand.
Which is why we tell people all the time, do not sign that darn agreement until we've had a chance to review it with you. And people, I've had cases where we're working on a case, and we're helping with negotiations and strategy and everything. And then all of a sudden I get an MSA or a marital settlement agreement or divorce decree, whatever you call it in your state, lands in my inbox. And I'm like, wait, what is going on here? We didn't talk about why are we agreeing to anything?
Yeah.
And let me have a chance to look at this first. And so if that's, if you're going to hire somebody like us to help you navigate the financial aspects of divorce, don't make that mistake because you may live to regret it.
Yeah. Because, a lot of times they'll say it just falls under the child support canopy of food, shelter, and clothing, but they don't talk about cell phones or marriages or college or sports equipment or video games. So it's
cars, insurance, braces.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
So
it is important.
It's very, very important.
What are some of the most effective strategies that you found as the dust settles on the divorce and now you've now left that life behind you? The narcissist is in the rearview mirror to some extent. Unless if you have kids, you're going to be dealing with that person all the time.
Forever.
But now it's like it's day one of the newfound you. Single person you. What are some of the most effective strategies that you found for helping individuals recover their own self-worth and after leaving a relationship like that?
Well, yeah, I talk a lot about believing in yourself. A lot of people that have gone through a narcissistic relationship find themselves to be a husk of the person they once were. And they leave you feeling less than, insecure. No one's going to love you. You'll never make it on your own. But you have to believe in yourself because there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There is a brighter future, especially when you break free. But a lot of that is learning to let go. That's one of my key things, let it go. Yeah. And just move forward because you don't want to keep holding on to those chains that bind you and keep dragging you down. You just have to look forward. And I always say, if what you're not changing, you're choosing. I love that. If you're not leaving a toxic relationship, you're choosing to be in a relationship that is just going to continue to bring you down. So don't hesitate, break free, break through those fears of the unknown. You can do it. Just believe in yourself and trust your gut. It's
so tough though when you were in a 30-year relationship.
Yeah.
30 years is not a small amount of time. So like, was there an impetus for you? Was there, and how did you yourself go from choosing a different direction when you invested 30 years of your life in this relationship?
Yeah, I say I had a light bulb moment, but it wasn't any one thing. It was accumulation of, let's say, water drops in a bucket over time. Just when that last drop hit, I'm like, I'm done. But I was living overseas at the time. I couldn't just leave and pack up my kids and leave. I didn't have any money of my own. I didn't have a home base. It was a big factor. But I knew I had to do it for myself and for my children because I was just teaching my children what a dysfunctional relationship was. And my relationship wasn't going to get any better at that point. So I had to make the conscious, choice to leave.
So some of it was, I want my kids to see what life is supposed to look like.
Right. I didn't want to keep teaching them what a dysfunctional relationship is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had to be able to take care of myself. And I was so depressed and really just, I was struggling. You get to that fight or flight,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to that point.
I was there.
I had to save myself
Yeah.
in order to care for my children.
Yeah. I remember there was always this thought in my head every time I was driving home from work where it was like, my window of happiness is closing.
Oh, that's so sad, but I understand.
Yeah. And the kids were there and they were great. And, they're all good people and love them very much. But, when you're in that environment and you're just not happy and it's like this, like death by 1,000 cuts scenario, like you talked about,
Yeah.
you're like, after a while, you're like, I just need some sense of happiness. So that was my experience, frankly. One of the things that I picked up in, leading up to our conversation here today was the impact that boundaries have on your ability to move forward and have some solid future relationships. So can you talk a little bit about that and like how the importance of boundaries and maybe setting them, in future relationships?
Yeah, well, that is something I struggled with. And I recognize that as one of my key elements into the divorce process was I was a people pleaser. I always was. So I did whatever anybody wanted to make sure everybody was happy and didn't want to step on any eggshells or ruffle the feathers because I was always afraid of his wrath and how it was going to affect everybody. But in hindsight, I realized that I neglected to set those boundaries from the start. And then, and every time we would get pushed back a little more and pushed back a little more. So, that was a big, big part of my struggle there.
But how did that impact you moving forward with future relationships?
It's a process. We have to take little steps, step by step, and stick up for ourselves and take ownership of who we are and who we know we can be.
Yeah. One of the, I know you also talk about environment and how that can impact your healing and your ability to move on and so on. And as you can tell by my interior design skills, we spend a lot of time at Home Goods. I'm only kidding.
I do too. I love that store.
Oh, well, you and my wife will hit it off. And when she listens to this, we'll give her a little shout out. Love you, Dawn. She listens to every single one of these episodes. She must be so tired of hearing my voice at this point. But environment really does impact your ability to heal and move on and kind of have that Zen-like experience that we're looking for, right? I mean, so as, is that more about like building an environment for the kids? Is this environment for you? Is this environment for everybody? Like, talk to me more about that, because I am not an interior designer. If you came to my house and I was a bachelor, I would be probably having this conversation with you on like a milk crate or from a bean bag or something.
I almost called my company Divorce Dad Decorator.
Oh,
I actually think
that'd be good. Because we dudes, we need help. Let's just put that out there. We need some major help, especially. So I only know one person who enjoys going to Hobby Lobby who's a male. I will tell you that. But we spend a lot of time at Hobby Lobby and Home Goods and TJ Maxx and all the places. But anyway, I digress. But so, like, talk to me a little more about the environment and how that can impact your well-being and your ability to heal as you move forward.
Well, our divorce process was very difficult. He wouldn't leave the house for a year. So we were both in the same house, and it was like War of the Roses. Hence, that's how I came up with Year of Thorns for my name of book. So no one dies in the end, but I don't want to, the punchline there. But it was very difficult. So then we tried bird nesting. It was awful. I mean, it literally was a year of hell. And I really didn't know if I could survive. I mean, there's days where I just thought I couldn't do one more day of this. Yeah. But then once the divorce became final, I decided to seek joy. What brings me joy? So I started working in flower shops. I started doing my decorating. And once you start doing those things that bring you joy, it really adds to your future, your finances. It just seems to all come together. But I was stifled for so long and controlled, and I wasn't able to seek that.
So you just, take baby steps though, right? I mean, like you can't do everything all at once. And I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, you probably wouldn't know by looking at me, but I used to run 50 to 70 miles a week, and I used to be a pretty good runner and do all those things. And I'm just now getting back to it, 7 years after my divorce, because it just took such toll on me physically and emotionally and everything else, where like some days I didn't even have the strength. I had to work, and we built 2 businesses, and we've actually built 3 businesses, my wife and I, over the course, my now wife, Dawn, and I, over the last few years. And it took everything out of you to be able to do that. So I'm just now, even 7 years after the fact, getting to the point where I'm like, wow, I can actually go out and run, 10 miles and not feel terrible. But it takes a while, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, it's been a little over 6 years, and I can't say I was better the next day. No, I mean, it's a process.
That's the message, right? I mean, so many people are going through this, and they feel like, and I can empathize, I can sympathize with a lot of people that are listening, because when you're in the throes of it, I mean, I had a countdown on my phone. I was counting down the days to how long I was no longer going to have to pay alimony. Right? Not that she didn't deserve it. Not that and people that receive or have to pay alimony, they're not rightfully deserving of receiving it or paying it. It was just like, this feels like it's never going to end. And I wanted to give myself like, it's no longer 900 days. It's now 800 days, and now it's 700 days. And I just feel like you're making some progress towards something. And that's I think the message in this segment of our conversation here today is, nothing's going to happen overnight. You just have to keep swimming. Yeah,
just keep swimming. That's a really good one.
Right.
And believe in yourself and trust your gut.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I would call the carte blanche segment of our conversation here today. Is there anything, I know you'd mentioned the checklist, so we can talk a little bit about that, but is there anything else, maybe questions I should have asked, or any message you want to share to listeners that I failed to bring up in our conversation today?
Well, when dealing with a narcissist and a divorce, like I said, when you're not changing, you're choosing, and don't let fear be a catalyst for keeping you in a toxic relationship, especially one if you're being abused verbally and physically. It's not going to get better, and it's not good for the kids for them to see that and see what a dysfunctional relationship is. So, believe in yourself. Sometimes you got to push through those boundaries in your comfort zone and take those little baby steps to break free. But once you do, you'll be in a better place.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to offer this to your listeners as well. So they'll get a free copy if they click on the link we'll provide. They can get a free copy of my divorce checklist, which is a really good itemized list of what you need to include in that judgment of divorce that a lot of the typical divorce judgments don't include.
We should get a copy of that to all of our clients as they close their cases.
Yes, you should.
Well, we'll talk about that offline, but I appreciate so much for the great conversation today. I was a little nervous about bringing up the N word, like you mentioned, because I wasn't sure where we were going to be able to take that, or maybe what our listeners would glean from that conversation. But I think it's important to bring up, and we have to certainly be careful about how loosely we're using that word. And I really appreciate you, Kimber, for sharing your profound insights and empowering strategies with us today. For those that are looking to learn more about Kimber's work or to join her claimed workshops, visit our website, yearofthorns.com. And remember, if you're navigating your own challenges and need support on the financial side of your divorce, Allegiant Divorce Solutions is here to help. You can visit our website at allegiantds.com to get expert advice and book a call with us, complimentary and confidential conversations. We have 30-minute calls scheduled all day long with people just like you who need the help. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring stories and practical advice. And until next time, stay strong and empowered on your journey to recovery.